For the follow, by the way, Lilia, and I think that's Lilia, Talia, jungle only. Welcome to the stream. Okay, now, Grenke Chess Tournament. Yeah, biggest chess tournament in the world. About, I think, 3.6k participants this year, which is 20% more than last year. Last year they had already a record-breaking 3,000 participants. This year it was 3,600. There's 3 sections: the A, B, and C tournament, classical chess A, B, and C, and then there is A and B and C in freestyle chess. So they had a freestyle section and a classical section. In the freestyle section, there were some of the greatest chess players of the world, which are Magnus Carlsen, Vincent Keimer. I think Arjun was playing, perhaps. Hans Niemann was participating. So lots of the greatest chess players in the world were playing the freestyle section. The classical chess section was still very much enjoyed by a lot of players. Strong candidates, CFMs, FMs, GMs, lots of strong players. Myself, I was not participating in the A tournament. The A tournament begins at a live FIDE rating of 1950 or above. At 2000 or above, you have to participate in the A rating section. I was playing in the B section as a top 20, top 30% player. There were 1,600 players participating in the B section open tournament classical chess. That means the time format is 90 minutes and 30 seconds increment per move without any extra time after move 40. Now, let's get started. This is the 9th game, the last game of the tournament. I'm currently standing at 4-4, and we are playing against Rachel Burak out of the USA. She has at this point also a 4-4 scoreline, and she is rated about 1720, while I was live FIDE rated at 18 and 25. So I'm well, you could say I'm a favorite to win this match. However, at this rating and at this player strength, usually what happens is that the players are still possible to make mistakes, and you will see I made a few mistakes in this game, which turned out to make this game very, very interesting and dynamic and very close, in fact. And without further ado, let's get started. Now I am playing as white here, witness Azir as white. I think it's kind of, I made a study out of it. I think I could edit a bit around and figure out how to do this properly, but for now let's just imagine me playing with the white pieces, witness Azir as white, whereas she is playing with the black pieces. She's actually a streamer from the US, which I should mention. The Twitch name would be Rachangel. I will probably give a little bit of a pop-up of that. Rachangel, yeah, I've talked with her a bit after the match. Was pretty pleasant, and we had a pretty interesting game. Now let's get started. Now I'm opening with the white pieces, and I usually play e4. Usually e4 leads to very like there are a few lines that lead to very sharp gains. Now there's of course lines that are much more resilient, such as for example the Russian defense. But there are a few answers like c5 or e5 that turn to very interesting openings. c5 with the Sicilian defense makes usually the board very dynamic and leads to highly complex structures. e5 is usually a bit more symmetrical, but can also lead to very sharp lines in Italians and Evans Gambit, which is for example what I played in this match. You will see it. We played e5 by her, knight f3, knight to c6, and now there's a few options. The computer, you will see the computer suggestions, because again, this is my first chat on this, so please bear with me. Perhaps not of the same quality as some other players. Now there is knight to c6 and bishop to b c4, which is the Italian. Bishop to c5, classical Italian. There's also the option to go into the 3 knights defense, which would invite the Prussian attack with knight to g5, and then d5 and knight to a4 are the continuations for black after takes d5. But there's also some other crazy lines in there. I'm very confident in theory about knight to f6 and bishop to c4, c5. And so I continue with the Evans Gambit. Now, Evans Gambit I wanted to play because it's the last tournament game. I'm slightly favored. I want to have a banger of a game because my tournament so far wasn't too great. I was playing 4 and 4 in terms of scoreline. Usually, with my seating, I should be probably scoring positively. Maybe 5 to 6 out of 9 would be the roundabout estimate for me. So with a 4 and 4 scoreline, I want to push for a win. I want to have a strong finish to the tournament. With b4, I invite a highly complex and spectacular match where lots of attacking should be possible, and it's more likely to result in a winning party rather than a draw. She takes, which is the main move, c3, bishop a5, all main theory. Now there's an alternative to bishop a5. You could play bishop to e7. I think this is where we could vary exactly. Bishop to e7 would be a more defensive line where you put the pawn on d4, the knight moves to a5, kicking this strong light squared bishop, which controls this very important d5 square as well, kicking the bishop retreats. Now you could perhaps play d5, which is a bit dodgy, as the e5 pawn is also hanging. e6 is an alternative. If takes, the pawn can take back, the structure will be a bit ruined. I think there's not even necessarily pawn takes back, but d6 is a pretty well-known move in this theory. I think if pawn takes, there's takes, and then you can probably just develop, and this isolated pawn structure of white is becoming quite weak, and you have equalized materials, so white is playing with a bit of a development advantage, but black is playing with against those isolated pawns. It's the safer variant, the more precise, and the move that tries to play for advantage as black is bishop a5. Now you need to be a bit precise as black, knowing the theory, etc. d4 is the classical continuation. You can play d6, that would be the standard move, but she played the very unusual b5. I've not seen this move on the board before. I know it out of theory, out of the Prussian attack, which I mentioned earlier. I will not open the second board here to show it, but basically in this line there is a deviation where you can play b5. Now in Evans Gambit I didn't know about it, but apparently it works absolutely fine for black. The idea is I take with the bishop, and now she has the move knight takes d4, which is a bit more accurate than if the bishop were standing on c4, as now the knight is attacking my bishop, and it kind of forces me to exchange the material here on d4. Takes, castles, and now there's two options for black, of course. First of all, apart from castles, there's another option for me, which I want to point out, which is queen takes d4. Computer also gave queen takes d4, I think, as an option. Likes castles more after deeper analysis. But queen takes d4 is also the alternative here, where I was checking it in the match as well, and queen to f6 is the very logical continuation, and I didn't really see what would happen if I tried to not exchange queens, which I don't want to do because I want to have a very aggressive fighting game. After e5 she has a very easy queen to b6 move, which kind of forces the queen trade, and my pawn structure is kind of ruined, and yeah, it looked like an unpleasant position for what I intended this match to be. Which means, preferably, I want to have an aggressive match, which means I castle, and I invite her to also consider taking this c-pawn. Now, with taking the c-pawn would come a bit of a problem, as if d takes c3 here, there's ideas like bishop to bishop to a3, like moving on this diagonal. And this pawn can never move right now, so that would be quite devastating for her. Also, there is this idea of just queen to d4 anyway, going after the dark squares. And I think, in contrary to the line that I showed prior, if the queen moves and she plays queen to f6, I think e5 makes a lot of sense now, because I can just avoid the queen trade in general and lock her down on these dark squares. The knight would have trouble developing. It would be a good position. So she develops the knight, preparing castling. Knight to f6 here is a bit dodgy, because I already have this move e5 and the bishop can come to g6 pinning the knight, and I can get a strong center anyway. So knight to e7 makes sense in the style of blocking this diagonal too, so that she can castle despite not being able to block the diagonal with the d pawn. I'll take the center pawn. It made to me a lot of sense to take with the pawn, get my pawn structure back in business, have a very strong center, lots of control over these squares, well, have a space advantage in space. I can put this bishop on this diagonal, or on this diagonal, could put the bishop on f4 perhaps. Lots of pleasant squares. There's ideas of pushing f4 at some point and just pushing these pawns and generating more space advantage. But she now has more active play with her bishops as well on these diagonals, can put the rook here. So she has a pleasant game, but she needs to first consolidate and castle and do a few things. Now after takes to the pawn, she castles. Computer gives queen to a5, which a4, which I don't really get, because the bishop probably wants to move here anyway. I think computer wants to move this because it frees up the square for the rook, and white doesn't really want to trade these developing pieces, so yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it also kind of locks this bishop onto protecting this pawn a bit. Okay, I played something else. I played bishop to g5. It made a lot of sense visually to me, but in hindsight I probably wouldn't have played this move, because the bishop feels very natural on this a3 diagonal, whereas on this diagonal it kind of gets kicked immediately after h6. I was thinking that after h6, bishop h4, g5, I'd be very happy, because it then provokes her to create some weaknesses that I could use to attack her king side and play for an attacking game, which was my goal in this game. Also, f6 was an idea, but f6 also weakens this light square diagonal, so I was happy about that. So it made sense to me in the game, but I think computer just likes to play h6, move the queen away, and then this bishop will come, or this knight will come to g6, have no problems at all, and control some of the key dark squares. I think that was the idea of computer. In hindsight, yeah, I'm not sure about this bishop anymore. But you'll see. What happened in the game was c6 first, kicking my bishop. Now, here's a crucial situation in the game. Now, I usually play Evans Gambit without this b-pawn sacrificing itself back. And that means that in this situation, the very natural bishop to d3 is different compared to the bishop to a4. I don't know what exactly rode me to play bishop a4. In this position, bishop d3 is very natural, keeps control of this a3 square, and this bishop kind of struggles to develop. Also, if d5, there's some ideas of e5 and opening these diagonals. So yeah, bishop to d3 was quite sensible. I should have played that. I think I wanted to play this move because there are some tactics where if she wants to push d5, which I didn't want to allow, if she wants to push d5, I can take this knight and then take this c-pawn, which is weak, and then take this d-pawn as well and win the game, basically. However, currently, it doesn't work currently in this situation because, well, with this b-pawn having been sacrificed earlier, now her bishop has this diagonal open and can develop. And it develops to a6, and actually in the match my rook is now attacked and has no square, so I'm losing material. A quick read on the timer. So for most of the moves I didn't think much. After this very interesting b5 idea that I mentioned earlier, which is I think happened around about here. After this move, b5 by her, I thought a bit about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes before taking, because I wanted to think about what would happen if I just moved away, but it made a lot of sense to take. And then I was blitzing out most of my moves, but then after her castles, I was thinking a bit for bishop g5. And now I'm down to 1 hour and 3 minutes. And she has thought a bit about some of the moves as well. c6 she thought about and has 1 hour and 13 minutes on the clock. So quite even, still lots of time to think about the position. And here I blunder, I basically think about this bishop a4 for about 3-5 minutes. I think I thought about it 2 minutes on the board, and I left the board after having moved bishop to g5. And after c6 I kind of blitzed out bishop a4, and yeah, that costs me. Now I'm in a much worse position. I'm trying to defend this position with material down. Now as a trade-off for this material, I have again this very strong control over squares and some attacking chances. It's very thin though. Computer still agrees that black is definitely winning here, but knows that it's also not definitely forced. Okay, bishop a4, huge blunder. I think this allows me to offer this allows me to give it a question mark, and that definitely deserves a question mark here. Bishop here. Now the rook goes down anyway. Computer wants to move the rook here so I can trade off this dark squared bishop. I'm not so exactly sure, perhaps because this knight has an easier time developing afterwards. But I personally felt like I didn't want to move the rook just to lose it anyway. I wanted to gain tempi and I wanted to develop this queen to the king side. So what I'm doing in the position is I clamp down on this on these dark squares, because what happens is she's gonna take the rook and wants to free her position by playing d5, which is not possible right now. If she plays d5 right now, there is bishop takes the knight and then takes the pawn, and I have a very good position. But also in the long run, I can set up an en passant structure where I take this pawn and then pin the knight. For example, if I put my knight onto this beautiful e4 square at any time, I can set up this en passant structure, and this knight is also permanently pinned. So she kind of has to figure out how she kind of consolidates her pieces and gets rid of all those nasty pins and clamping down on her position. She takes, well, makes a lot of sense. Computer actually gives this e5 move a mistake. I would like, or doesn't like it much, would perhaps give it a question mark, exclamation mark. I like it in terms of the idea. I am losing this game if I don't force her to make mistakes or put her under pressure, which makes this e5 move threatening the key squares here quite useful, quite sensible. She takes the rook, I take with the king. I want to move my queen to these light squares, so king takes is the sensible move in terms of creating attacking chances. Computer wants to do more passive play, right? He doesn't want to push the pawn, he wants to give up the rook like this and try and defend. Now that doesn't make sense out of a human perspective. Takes and then h6. Computer wants to move back, as you can see. I preferred the h4 square. That gave her some of these moves here. I think queen to e8 followed, unpinning and preparing knight to one of these light squares. Queen to e8. I played knight to a3 in this position, with the general idea of developing this knight to c4, attacking this bishop, and preparing knight to d6, which would be a very strong piece in the position. She has knight to f5 here, and that's an annoying move, because now I'm kind of in a bit of a pin. I don't want to lose this bishop really, but at the same time there's not really a square where I don't lose this bishop, where she can't trade it off. Now in this position, yeah, leave you a little bit of a thought. Please write in the comment section if you find a move for white that complicates the game. and seems to be keeping this bishop, at least for a moment. You want to complicate the game, you want to make sure that black has trouble just winning or like exchanging this bishop and simplifying the position. Alright, I gave you enough time. Now, I found this very nice idea, bishop to f6 on the board. Now, bishop to f6 complicates the game a lot. And when I was playing bishop f6, I thought about it for about like 5 to 10 minutes again. She, after that, had to think a bit. Yeah, I think she thought about like the next move for about like 15 minutes. Now, computer gives queen to e6, and queen to e6 is very logical. However, from a human perspective, you may not be able to calculate everything, because queen to f6, e6, there's a few ideas for white. There's the idea of queen to g4, attacking this pawn and pinning the pawn. However, it doesn't work. Now, there's a reason that queen to g4 here doesn't work, and I'll show you. So just to finish the idea, let's see what happens after queen to e6 and queen to g4. Computer gives black is winning after knight to e3. What a move. What a move. The queen is undefended, and so what happens is this discovery check attacks the queen with her queen, and she's gonna win the queen and win the game. And yeah, I saw that after I played bishop to f6, and I was intending originally to put the queen to g4, which is not as possible anymore. Now, there's another alternative that you can think about as white, which doesn't work sadly, is bishop to b3, attacking this queen. But then there's just this very simple and elegant d5, and now I have nothing better than just to exchange the bishop for a pawn and be down a lot of material and lose the game that way. So lots of problems after queen to e6, and it's like perhaps not the easiest tactic to spot, but it is definitely a tactic that you can spot in such a game. A different alternative that I was thinking about, of course, was if there's not such a tactic, I can, in the long run, put this bishop on c2, attack this knight a lot of times, and this bishop will be traded for this knight in the long run, but with active position for me. That was my intention. Now, she didn't find queen to e6. After 15 minutes, she played the second best move, bishop to d8. Simplifying the position is her goal. Of course, exchanging this bishop for this bishop would make a lot of sense. A proactive exchange from my side doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, I played a greedy move here, again giving her a good chance to win the game by playing queen to g4. If she finds queen to e6 now, she is winning, because now I can't exchange the bishop because she again has the same tactic. But she didn't find it the first time, and I was kind of greedy a bit because of that. So yeah, not exactly the best attempt, but I mean, I have to take my chances, and she didn't find queen to e6, and now I'm starting to feel really good about my position. Now I'm down material, and I still need to gain finish the attack. The first time here, what's happening, I'm analyzing my Grenke live chess match from last weekend, where I participated in the Grenke Chess Tournament. This is what is going to finish the stream for today. I played a few solo queue Azir games before that. Please check them out. Okay. Bishop takes f6, and now it's important to not take this bishop, even though it looks promising. It's important to keep the pawn structure, take the knight, which is the stronger piece, and gain a tempo, kicking away this bishop. Bishop has to retreat, and now you can kind of see how her pieces are all lined up on this back rank. By the way, I should give this bishop f6 an exclamation mark. I think that deserves an exclamation mark. That is a cool move. Anyway, we play this through. Takes the knight, and the bishop retreats. It's forced to retreat. There's no really good square, and now I can start to free my pieces and become very active, and the computer only gives black a slight advantage. Considering how these pawns are backwards, how this rook is kind of stuck, this rook doesn't really have a lot of possible futures, only this b file. and my knight will come to some very frustrating square with this d6 square. My rook can shift onto the e file, opposing the queen. There's lots of ideas for white here to play, and it's actually, I think, more pleasant to play white than black in this position. Queen, bishop to d8. I followed up with bishop to b3. Now that's a change in move order. It doesn't make much of a difference between the knight and the bishop. This bishop here I wanted to have because I want to kind of keep a certain eye on this f7 pawn. Also, I didn't want her to move the queen to e6, like looking for a queen exchange. So now she plays the best move, queen to e7. But yeah, you can see, like with best play, the advantage doesn't change, and I kind of start to get my pieces going, get activity, and she doesn't really make progress with her best moves. Knight to c4 is the logical continuation, eyeing this square and preparing a shift maybe onto e4, maybe onto g4. There's lots of good squares for this knight. Very strong piece in this position. Also, it kind of dominates this bishop here on this diagonal, giving him no square, and then my rook can come to e1 nicely. g6 is definitely what I thought about in this game as well, but g6 also provokes another weakness in black's camp. In the long run, I can perhaps target this pawn, perhaps get a breakthrough with h4, h5. So yeah, again, considering I'm down material, I want to look and probe black for weaknesses in the position and ensure that black struggles a bit in freeing their position and simplifying. Now bishop to c7 makes sense. It's also a decently good move. Computer doesn't give it as one of the first lines, but still pretty decent. The bishop to c7 has the idea of making sure that this pawn can finally move to d5. En passant would result in bishop takes. I don't really want to take with the knight because then the position simplifies. The queen takes. This pawn is defended. Those rooks find nice files to play on, and I don't really have any control over the position afterwards anymore. Which means what I do is put my last piece into the play, rook to e1, renewing the threat of en passant, because now after d5 there's now, let's show you, there's now en passant, and I'm winning material because there's no takes, because the rook is attacking this queen, and I'm winning the position. So now I still kind of keep her from playing this d5 idea, which leads to her trying to reinforce it. For example, white makes any random move, let's say this. There's now this move. If I take en passant, there is checkmate in one. So after this happens in the game, I need to figure out a way to deny this, and rook to e3 is a very logical, very consequent move. It protects the rook twice with the f pawn and with the knight. It renews this pin on the pawn. There's now again this en passant threat because the rook is protected. There's no back rank weakness right now. And it allows me to prepare some rook shifts to the g and h file, attacking this king and starting an attack. You see how black is like reasonably well placed, but this rook doesn't do anything, and these two guys are staring into nothingness. The queen doesn't really ever want to move here, because if the queen moves here, I'll retreat my queen and move the knight away, and then this bishop diagonal is very strong. This pawn cannot move, so black really kind of has a lack of ideas, whereas white can kind of slowly increase the pressure and probe black for weaknesses. Again, computer likes g6, however g6 also runs into rook g3 and so on, and then this dark square becomes weaker, and there's perhaps a knight to d2 and knight to e4 idea going after the square after g6 moves, and this square will never fix itself again. This diagonal is weak. There's lots of problems for black, and it's really quite pleasant and easy to play with white, and by now it's starting to show in terms of the time as well. We have made the move. Black's last move was rook a e8, which at this point on my clock there is 25 minutes, and on her clock there is now I think about around 18 minutes, so I'm now up on the clock, and especially this bishop f6 move has cost her a bit of time. She moves away the king out of this diagonal, so there's no more certain ideas of knight here. I start probing for weaknesses. I want to provoke g6, even though the computer likes it. I thought in the game, if I provoke g6, it's gonna be a permanent weakness on this f6 square and on this h6 square. And the king on h8 allows this idea further. G6 is played, the queen retreats. There's still no d5 to free her position. And f5 also doesn't look too promising. It works, but it's very risky. Yeah, this g6 pawn is gonna be weak after the en passant, and it's not so clear how is black gonna survive this. The computer gives h5, which is also going to be a permanent weakness and a very nice square for me to attack. So yeah, computer is always safe and sound, whereas I am, as white, I find ideas in this position, and black really struggles to come up with ideas to make progress. However, I need to be careful to not exchange too much material and not simplify the position. If the position is getting simplified, this exchange material advantage is going to carry through into the late game and win the game. So what she's playing is queen to e6 now, which doesn't have too much of a future here. However, it's also not completely misplaced. There's some ideas in some lines where she puts the queen here and exchange down. And I don't want to have that happen. Computer likes to move back the bishop. I had a different idea. I played rook to h3 with the idea of going after this pawn. But the computer is quite happy as black, as he now has this very simple move, king to g7. Now there was a little bit of a trap here. h5 blunders the game a bit, I think, after rook takes h5. Our computer is kind of happy about this as well. With king to g7, now the h-file is open, and there's a way for black to exchange material now. Sure, I won back some material with this pawn, but now black can free this rook and actually is doing decently well in terms of the position. So yeah, h5 I probably shouldn't have taken if I wanted to keep the position complicated. But then the move makes a lot of sense. Okay, h5 didn't happen. King to g7 immediately, which is the best move as well, recommended by the computer. Your computer likes knight to e3 as well, which was the long-term strategy for me too. Knight to e3 eyes some of the key squares like g4 and here. Also prepares bishop to come back. I wanted to play queen to d2, which again, if there's d5, I have this en passant as a possibility. I'm also constantly threatening h6. En passant is possible because the queen actually protects the e1 square, which I have to keep an eye on because of this battery on the e-file. Yeah, I'm also eyeing this h6 pawn, and I thought, yeah, h5 she doesn't really want to play, because it provokes weaknesses, but again, computer is really happy with it and says the king is just not gonna move, the g pawn won't ever take, and then the rook on the h file can exchange itself, so h5 is a good idea for black. She didn't want to play it, which is understandable. It's not very human to play h5 in this position, I think. She played rook to h8, which makes also quite a bit of sense, but now the rook is also kind of passive here. And yeah, and now I think a bit and play the bishop back to b3. Now after rook to h8, let's check on the time really fast. She had 9 minutes on the clock, so she thought for the last 5 minutes she used about, what, 6 to 7 minutes. And after bishop back to b3, I had now, what was it, 8 minutes on the clock too. So I thought about this for a long time because, yeah, you need to come up with like effective ideas here as white. There are certain things you need to think about, such as, do you move the queen back to a different square? Do you put the rook back to e3? Do you now move the knight first and then the bishop? Where does this bishop belong? And I figured out the best move, which is bishop to b3, putting the bishop across this queen. Now there's this d5 idea where after takes, bishop takes and knight takes, the queen can take back, and black is doing really fine. Probably slightly better even if not winning. But if the d5 move happens, I can remaneuver the knight, I can let the position be closed and then remaneuver the bishop too, and start my attack on the king side as like a second time. She moved the queen out of this diagonal, which is now giving me a complete equalization in this game, and I'm really happy about this, as now the queen is a bit more passive and has not really gotten any progress done, and I find the best move knight to e3 after not thinking too long. Knight to e3 was very sensible. I think I fought 2 minutes on this. Yeah, I can allow d5. I don't care about it anymore. I don't have to take en passant. I just keep this pawn chain and go after these squares. The knight goes to g4 or has some ideas of moving to f5 in some scenarios. And on g4 it eyes this very weak f6 square, which I already mentioned would be weak after the move g6. Knight to e3, very sensible. d5, also very sensible. Finally, black frees their position a bit, can move the queen away. This pawn chain interrupts my bishop a bit, but at the same time my bishop can remaneuver, and this bishop is actually a worse piece than this one. Rook to g3, now threatening knight to f5, winning the game on the spot. Very, very threatening move, and just a general nice plan. She finds the best move, king to f8, but as you can see, the material advantage doesn't matter anymore. White's positional advantage is now carrying, and it's currently white the one who has all the attacking and proactive ideas, and black is just trying to hold on and survive until the material exchanges. But as you can see, I have taken a very great care in avoiding material exchanges and just complicating the position more and more. Now f4 is a very strong idea in this position. I think I actually found it as well. I was thinking about bishop to c2 too, but f4, after a minute of thinking, like for rook to g3 I thought about it for a minute, f4 I thought a minute, and now it's very clear white wants to break open this position and infiltrate the black's camp after f5. Black can hardly take because of this very strong knight on f5 would appear. Bishop can come to c2, protect this knight, and this knight is never gonna move anywhere else. This queen is gonna be in a bit of trouble, and the protection around the black king is going to become a bit thin. If black doesn't take on f5, there are ideas like knight to g4, knight to f6, or even playing f6, putting the bishop on this light square diagonal and controlling a lot of squares around this black king, and not really giving black any room to breathe. As long as this king is stuck here, this rook is gonna be stuck as well. And so white is playing with all of their pieces, while as black is really not playing with all of their pieces. Also guys, I'm arguing more out of the position of white because I have an idea of what white feels like, because I was playing white and I could think of these ideas, and at this point in the game I was feeling quite confident. f4 was played, very aggressive move. She was on 4 minutes before this, and now for queen to d7 she fought around about 3 minutes. She played queen to d7, which is not the best move. The computer tries to become proactive, play queen to a3, which makes sense. However, the queen doesn't really do much here. I think it's a long-term move where you want to get the queen out of these kind of weak squares where the knight can start attacking it. And you want to put the queen here so that this queen is kind of bound to protect the c1 square, which is important so that there's no infiltration and checking my king. So queen to a3 would have been a good defensive attempt. Queen to d7 gives me advantage already, and now considering the fact that I already have advantage in this position, you can understand how much pressure she will be under. With low time on the clock, hardly any proactive move to play, and me slowly but surely being able to increase the pressure with ideas like f5, bishop to c2, and certain attacks against her king. Queen to d7 is not a good move. I played knight to g4 here, which is not a good move either. The idea of knight to g4 was to put the knight on f6 and threaten this very nasty fork. The bishop could come to d8 though and easily protect this. And the knight on g4 is not as well placed as here on e3, where it constantly keeps an eye on this f5 idea. So yeah, deserves a bit of a question mark. This move. She played queen to e6, which gives the advantage away. I can move knight to f6 now, but again, yeah, I did so as well. It's a sensible thing to do. Rook has to move away. She didn't find rook to b8. She was under heavy time trouble after knight to f6. She had 1 minute on the clock, and with 30 seconds on the clock she played rook to d8, which is a bit too passive. That deserves a question mark. she has to get the rook away from this like passivity. Like, even though this bishop is fortified here, keeping the rook here would at some point make bishop to c2 a bit more troublesome, because the rook could infiltrate. I played now bishop to c2, which is my logical next continuation. 30 seconds thought, or like a minute thought about that. Bishop to c2. Now she needs to try and find this breakthrough with c5 in order to finally get more breathing room. If she just waits for me to start my attack, things will become dire very fast. Now bishop to c2. Rook here is definitely, again, is a panic move. She didn't find any ideas anymore. She had 1 minute on the clock, or 30 seconds on the clock. Hardly any move for her to play at this point. Now I play the move f5, which is the best move in this position. A nice breakthrough. Pawn takes, and now the idea that I thought about while playing f5, a very simple and very elegant idea, was to play queen to f4 and then follow up with bishop f5, as there's no counterplay to that. However, in the game I kind of played out queen to f4 after 20 seconds because I didn't want to let her think on my time. She had now, I think, what was it, around 40 to 50 seconds on the clock, 40 seconds on the clock. I played to queen to f4, and as you can see, the computer gives queen to f6 because this bishop suddenly pins this pawn, which didn't happen before. She couldn't take this knight because the pin doesn't matter on this pawn. Now it does, and I actually throw the match, and she didn't find it with 30 seconds on the clock, and played with 3 seconds left on the clock. She played bishop to d8, which seems logical, but now loses completely after bishop takes to f5. It seems logical to go after this, but bishop to f5 already, computer gives checkmate in 19. Bishop to f5 happens. Computer likes to give up the queen in order to avoid checkmate. She played queen to e7, and with 2 minutes on the clock I thought about it. I was also very nervous. I thought about sacking the queen, but in my head there were already ghosts existing, thinking that after sacking the queen she can play queen to f6 and force an exchange of queens, as if I take the queen she can take mine and she would win material. However, sacking the queen comes with a check, so she would have no choice other than taking, which I didn't realize in the game. I found a different alternative. I found rook to g8, which is also a beautiful rook checkmate. Let's give this a double exclamation mark. Beautiful rook sacrifice, forcing her to take with the rook. After this we have a queen to h6 move, which is much easier to calculate. She has to move the rook in between, it's the only move. And then queen to h8 forces the rook to come back, and I can take the rook and deliver checkmate. Now this knight on f6 has become a very strong piece, and as you can see I was winning this match because I was applying constant pressure without letting go at all. Now she defended very precisely on very many occasions, but didn't find two very crucial ideas. The queen to e6 idea, which threatens this knight to e3 discovery, was very important, and developing her pieces over to the queen side and freeing that way was also very important, and she didn't find those, which gave me the positional advantage and thereby allowed me to unleash this very devastating attack. And then of course the second time she didn't find the very important tactic, queen takes f6. Yeah, it was a very pleasant last match for me personally. It was intense, it was a time scramble in the end. It was lots of fun for me to play, and hopefully lots of fun for you guys to watch on YouTube. I hope you guys took something from it and enjoyed the chess content. League content is probably coming as well. You saw some of the shorts perhaps. Thank you guys for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you guys will be on my streams perhaps. See you everybody. Arise, have a great night, sleep well. Goodbye everybody, and arise.